Hello, and welcome to the Hive Mind podcast, where the collective wisdom of the travel industry helps you match travelers with the right destinations and the right hotels. I'm your host, Whitney Schindler, founder and CEO of The Hive, a platform designed to give travel advisors organized, actionable insights they can put to work right away. Each week, I sit down for focused, real-world conversations with travel advisors, hoteliers, and supplier partners who know these places inside and out. We break down how each hotel is best suited to a specific client profile, take quick deep dives into destinations, and share pro tips to help you make the most of the Hive. And here's the best part. You don't need to take notes while you listen. Go about your day, tune in, and know that every insight from these conversations is already captured and organized inside the Hive. So it's there when you actually need it. And if you aren't in the Hive yet, you can get resources from this and other episodes when you join our newsletter at thehive.travel/podcast. Today, we have a new episode of The Essentials, a deep dive all about helping you not just understand a destination, but feel it, the energy, the vibe, and the nuance that make it unique. Trusted destination partners share key details that matter most and help paint an overall picture that will inspire you as you present the destination to clients. When you bring a destination to life with confidence and with clarity, you build trust, you spark excitement, and you make it that much easier for your clients to say yes. Joining us today to talk about Syros, an island in Greece that's part of the Cyclades Islands, is Christina Papavlasopoulos, co-founder of Myths and Muses, a DMC in Greece. Let's dive in. Christina, hi, how are you? Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Whitney. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
I'm super excited to talk about an island today that until very recently I had never heard of. I did not know where it was. Tell us which island we're going to dive into today.
Today, we're going to be talking about the beautiful Syros.
So for people like me who are listening, who are not on Google Maps right now looking into this island, describe to us, help us visualize the map and kind of visualize where this island is, just so that we can kind of start there and make sure everybody's got the right picture in mind.
Yeah, for sure. So Syros is actually the capital of the Cycladic. Sometimes we call it Cycladic, but ultimately it's the capital island of that group. The other more well-known siblings of the group, you could say, are of course Mykonos, Santorini, but it's just kind of east of those. So it's about, for reference, an hour, 20-minute ferry ride from Mykonos, 35-minute ferry ride from Tinos. So it's south of Athens, but north of Crete.
Okay. So ferries and connections generally are pretty easy between Santorini and Santorini, Mykonos, Paros. Like, it's a part of this island cluster.
Yes, absolutely. It's about, I think maybe an hour, 40 minutes from Paros. So Syros is very accessible. And also by being the capital of that group, it's has a really good seasonality too, and pretty easy to access even off season. There's also flights to there, not necessarily every single day, but from Athens you can get there pretty frequently.
So let's dive right into seasons, because I think that this is one of the key things when it comes to clients who are interested to go to Santorini or Mykonos, that these are pretty seasonal islands. Maybe the island doesn't shut down, but not much is going on, all year round. What's the situation in Syros? Do you say the S at the end or just O? Syros?
That's an interesting, sometimes you say, so the way you talk about an island, like the way you say Mykonos or Mykono, if you're talking about it versus you're on it, it's kind of a different thing. But either way, I would say, like if you say I'm going to Mykono, but when you're talking about it, it's Mykonos, Syros. It's a unique way that Greeks kind of conjugate.
Yes.
Just like if you're talking, it actually comes from if you're talking about a man, if you're talking about him, you'll say Dimitris. If you're talking to him, you drop the S. So it's a bit of a nuance in Greek language. But for all intents and purposes, you can keep the S on. You can call it Syros.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. So Syros, because it is the capital, because when you say it's the capital, I'm then assuming that there is more of a local population there, maybe a little bit more than the other islands. Is that true?
Definitely, yeah. It has a year-round population, and it also has a pretty substantial uh, digital nomad expat population as well, because it lends itself to that. But I would say yes, definitely people live there year round, and it has a good commerce. There's a hospital, there's commercial buildings where people are doing administrative work year round. So it's kind of where everybody in the islands goes to get things
Okay.
done. Mhm.
Okay, perfect. So is it year round from a tourism standpoint? Would you, I mean, I don't know if you really have a lot of clients asking to go to the islands in, December, January, February, but talk to me about seasonality as it relates specifically to leisure travelers, most likely coming from the US and Canada. What's kind of the window of best opportunity that you would say Syros could be a great option for this itinerary, for example?
Yes, I there definitely are some hotels open year round. I would say generally the season, as per most of Greek islands, is typically May till like end of October.
Mhm.
The kind of unofficial start of the Greek season often is Orthodox Easter, which changes from year to year, ranging from early April to early May.
Mhm.
If you want to avoid the crowds, like early to mid May is a good time. June, July gets a bit busier. We're also seeing September is a really high month for travel, but October is still lovely as well. So I would say any of those is kind of where you should still be able to have a full range of hotels and most of the experiences
Mhm.
we offer still to be able to incorporate in an itinerary. You certainly can go in the winter, but it's one of the few islands that I would say still kind of is open. But in terms of tourism, I would say to enjoy what it has to the fullest, stick to kind of
Right.
those shoulder months.
Right.
Yeah.
What I think my biggest question always when learning about a new destination is like, what do I get to do when I go to Syros? Like, what are the types of activities and experiences that are possible there? And also, is there anything that is unique to that island? Like, you can do this in Syros, but you can't really do it in Paros or Santorini, for example. So, like, trying to understand. Um, I guess what I'm trying to say is like sometimes I could say, well, there's a cooking class available anywhere technically, so I can fit it in like where it works. Or there are sometimes like, no, this experience, you do this here, this is where it happens, this is the best option. So help me like differentiate between those different types of experiences that are available in Cietos.
Yeah. So I would say for me to kind of understand the soul of Ciro, talking about its history and the way it is really important to what you can do there and the experiences. Ciro has its roots. So I mean, it's been through a lot of different rule. It was the Phoenicians and Ionians, and then Venetian rule, like the Italians. So aesthetically, it has these beautiful neoclassical mansions. People often describe it with a very aristocratic air, very stylish and elegant. With so many different cultures there too. There's a mix of Catholic and Orthodox. It's a bit of a melting pot. So the churches, and the different celebrations are very different. But Syro has its roots in commerce. It was the first commercial port, and that turned into just an industry. It turned into crafts and construction, tanning, shipbuilding. So there's still this kind of industrial edge to it. So that is actually a really unique experience where you can go to this historic textile museum, see memorabilia, vintage items from the 19th and 20th century workers. You can actually put on their uniforms. You can have dinner in this space. And then in terms of like cooking classes, there's everything from a very kind of pared down cooking class in a rustic farmhouse where she really focuses on the herbs and their medicinal purposes, to a very kind of more high end, sophisticated farm to table experience in a neoclassical mansion. Um, Being that the island has such roots with theater and kind of the arts, we offer a really unique experience there as well, where you actually meet a granddaughter of a famous Greek actress in one of the beautiful theaters. Again, being kind of the capital of the Cyclades, they have beautiful theaters and stately government buildings. So you can go in there, and then you're actually welcomed into her home, and you can have some kind of meze and hear about kind of that story with her. I mean, just so many really unique and immersive experiences to do there.
Um, what? is there that is also on other islands? But that, if somebody wanted to stay a little bit longer and kind of mix some of the unique experiences and also the boat rides and the hikes and, just like the things that you could technically do everywhere, like what would you still arrange on Syros for clients if they stayed a bit longer?
Yeah, so definitely, there's a nice beach club there. I wouldn't say Ciro is known for its beaches. I mean, I think some of the islands have stronger there, but it does. I mean, it's an island and it's in the Aegean, and it does have beautiful waters around it. So getting on a boat is never a bad idea.
That's exactly what
Yeah,
I say. Like a boat day is always a
never.
fabulous
Yeah,
day. Yeah. And I
always a
try
good
to
day.
get 2 or 3 into a trip and I tell them like, these are not the same boat days. This is not, we already did one. We don't need another. You want both of
Exactly.
these.
Yeah, I mean, and it depends. They can be just even just a boat day can be so different. You might go on like a
Hmm.
fishing kaiki, this traditional wooden boat. There's a boat trip we do to the lighthouse. You can actually take a boat and go down to this church. It Seattle actually has this church in a cave, Aios Stefanos Church, which the legend has it that a fisherman was drowning by a large octopus. The tentacles had ensnared him, and he was drowning and prayed to Saint Stephanos, Saint Stephen, and then he was saved and he built this church. But it's really a beautiful church. Like you have to go either by boat or down this steep path to get to there. So I mean, just I always just like taking boats around and seeing the different coves. Of course, you can visit it by walking around, by bike, by hiking. Of course, olive oil tasting, doing different things with food and Greek spirits tasting. There's so many different things to kind of try there.
In this business, consistency is what builds trust. Clients return and refer because they know they'll receive the same thoughtful, professional experience every time. That's what the Hive delivers. It's your expertise vault, capturing and organizing hotel details, destination insights, and advisor knowledge so you always have the right information at your fingertips. Whether you're new, scaling, or leading a team, the Hive helps you deliver smarter, more consistent client experiences that set you apart. Learn more anytime at thehive.travel. When you include Syros on an itinerary, do you generally, is it like a kind of a typical 3 or 4 night stay that you try to work in, or what's kind of the average length of stay that travelers are enjoying most?
I would say I would love for it to be, I always ask people, even when they're island hopping with a short amount of time, I ask not to do anything less than 2 nights. 3 is ideal
Agreed.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I completely understand our, the lack of time we have and the vacation time that Americans want to take and venture in. But it's also, if you have 7 or 8 days, don't spend 3 of them at an airport or on a boat. But that said, I would say 3 nights is great. And it really just depends. I mean, it can be linked with Tinos and Mykonos, which are very close. Of course,
Hmm.
it's a flight from Athens. So it can really kind of just be plugged into a lot of different ways to build the itinerary.
So tell me a little bit about like the client profile that you feel is the best fit for Syros, and also on the opposite end of like the client profile that's really not the best fit, just based on accommodation options that are available, logistics options that, need to be considered, the types of activities, like what type of client profile do you envision and you think like, oh, Syros would be great for these guys?
Yes. I think it's the perfect type of trip for clients who are seeking what I call kind of the new luxury, the new definition of luxury, which is not so much the ultra luxe or the white glove experience, but a really culturally enriching experience, access to incredible things that they wouldn't have if it weren't for you or us and your local partners, something with a really authentic feel, these really rare and beautiful elements. When we place Zero in an itinerary, with other more well-known islands, it's typically a favorite. They're like, I'm so glad you convinced us to do that because for a few reasons. It's quite different architecturally and visually and aesthetically than a lot of the other islands. It's not the whitewashed blue domes of the other islands. And it has a very, like I said, it has a very kind of elegant and elevated feel. I feel like so many of the restaurants and the shops, there's such a sense of design and intent around everything for me. You're not going to see, kind of the masses of, you know, made in China magnets and things that are just, all the shops and all of the things have quite a strong sense of place, which I love. I feel like New
Nice.
Yorker, yeah, it's you'll love it. I'm excited for you to see it. I feel like New Yorkers and urban travelers always like it. It's really good for independent explorers, people who enjoy walking, and I think really people who appreciate history and foodies. Definitely, there's a lot of great things to do there.
Do you include it on a lot of first time visits to Greece if time allows, or do you generally kind of feel like it's a return trip to Greece where you try to sneak it in? Or is it everywhere? It's more on the profile and not on the time
I mean,
spent.
it's yeah, sure. It's both. For people that are like, I do have, Island A on my bucket list, but show me something, surprise me, or I'd like to see something a little, maybe lesser traveled. It's when we put it in there, especially when they've already picked islands that are just 30 minutes to an hour away.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it does often end up being something that they're really glad they included. It's not for the people who are seeking the top beach clubs with the crystal waters or the five-star resorts and amenities.
Mm-hmm.
The the best hotels are kind of, there are some five-star, but it's very more boutique in these kind of reclaimed mansions, which have such a charm. But if people are looking for these sprawling hotels with many rooms and full spas
Yeah.
and et cetera,
And
that's
plunge
really
pools in
not.
every room.
Exactly. That's not what you're going to Seattle for.
Okay. I think that's really helpful to understand because sometimes I have a client that's like, well, I think you would love the vibe of Syros, but you're too bougie with your hotels that this isn't going to be a good fit. And then,
Right.
other times it is a perfect, it's the accommodation I feel is like the experiences you can often kind of flex for a lot of different people.
Hmm.
But what comes down to being like really big decision makers, like when it gets right down to the line of like we're making a decision and we're booking a trip, I generally find it's logistics and it's accommodations of like, here's the reality of the logistics to do what you're asking. I know you say that you want off the beaten path. I know that you say that you want to go to this island or whatever, but like, are we okay with these logistics? And a lot of time people will be like, no, we're not. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, so
Yeah.
you don't really want off the beaten path. Okay, got it, noted. And then other times it's like, okay, you are bougie with your hotels, and that's not a bad thing. It's just like a reality check
Right.
of
And I love that you said that, because one of the things I like to ask is like, tell me about hotels you typically like or a favorite
mhm,
experience you did in another place. Because I think when people like saying five-star or luxury is
means
it's such
nothing.
a broad, right,
Hmm.
right. And so
Yes.
some people will talk about a very design forward hotel or something really strong in amenities, or it has to be a spacious room. So when they start talking about double vanities, king beds, and Dyson air dryers, we're like, okay, so you're going to these very specific
Santorini or
places:
Mykonos. Yeah,
Santorini,
yeah,
Mykonos, Athens, yeah.
yeah.
And then if their like I said, their interpretation of luxury is that kind of behind the scenes access, or some where they're having a wonderful homemade breakfast with local products. That's a different thing, and that's something that Ciro can definitely deliver. But that's also where I think it's always important to consider destination placement and timing in the itinerary. If they started in Ciro and then end in Mykonos, or
Yes.
that wow five-star, but you can't go from a one and only to or a Four Seasons down. So I
Exactly.
think that's
Yeah.
that's something we always like to advise. Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I thought about it a few minutes ago and then I forgot that it's like I always pay close attention to the pacing. And I also pay close
Yeah.
attention to like, ending on a high note. But I think that is the high note can be so many things, right? I generally think of the high note being the accommodation, but I think what you're describing is really important to help clients understand and manage expectations that the high note in authentic experience might be zero, but the high note in accommodation is probably going to be Santorini or Mykonos. And so that
Right.
they go in and they don't, you can't end in Ciro with the boutiques. You can't do Mykonos first and then Syros for the accommodation purpose, but then they might also do Syros first and then get to Mykonos and be like, there's so many tourists here and there's just Chinese souvenirs everywhere. And so if you can help them understand what's going to shine in each of the destinations, then it can kind of like mentally prepare them for what they're going to experience, because it's like night and day what you're describing on these different islands.
Very much so. And I think, look, we all love to, I mean, it is our job to inspire and to sell, but I think managing expectations is ultimately what kind of wins our mutual clients' loyalty. I have people who are like, thank you so much for telling, for kind of not necessarily talking me out of, but telling me what the reality of coming in March or April will look like.
Yes.
Because I thought it was going to be this incredible beach stay, and you helped me understand, where others might be order takers. Sure, yeah, we'll book it. So I think it's important that we manage those expectations and say, hey, this is going to be great for this. This is going to be great for that. And just, really help them understand. I think people are reasonable as long as they understand what they're committing to.
Yes, agreed. Okay, so you mentioned like that boutiques and shops and restaurants are all like have more of kind of an authentic sense of place kind of character, which I'm very excited about. Is there anything specific that travelers should eat or purchase in Syros that might be different than any other islands, or is it just go enjoy the local boutiques, but what you're purchasing, is probably pretty typical to what you might find on a different island? Is my question making sense?
It is. No, absolutely. And every place has those places. So we at Myths Muses, we have a curated guide for every destination we send you to. So we have all the shops, our favorite restaurants with a clickable Google map, which clients love that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's a great way. I mean, and we'll do things in advance with the complimentary concierge services, but really more so it's about, okay, here are some things. And then it also gives them a chance to kind of dig into their own curated things like, oh, that restaurant sounds up my alley, or this shop appeals to me. Mm-hmm. For me, my favorite things in Syros are the Zelo sunglasses are made from wood, and they have their branding and their messaging is all about the sea. It's a lot of like natural tones, blue, all made from like recycled wood. So that's a really cool, walk away with those sunglasses. Maison de Mazet. Yeah. Ano Syros is an absolute must-see. Head up to Ano Syros. That's where, like I said, Maison de Mazet is a really cool small place to eat. Faye Papanikou has jewelry, incredible kind of like modern pieces. And then there's also just a really cool bar there that he actually makes. It's called Theosis, and he actually makes cocktails. Each are, again, it's this intent. He has a cocktail called Eros, which is the ancient word for love. And he says it balances the sweetness and the bitterness. So it's just, I mean, every little place you eat, you drink, you shop has some really cool things. Ermopoli, the main town, is where the most shops are. There's Kriari and Desperate Design, which I really like for kind of more edgy design and graphic prints. There's Curious Cat, which is a cute shop where I feel like that's where you're going to get something for your quirky aunt. It's like hand sewn and felt and like cool things like that. But there's, I mean, and you just walk around to the different villages and shops and you'll stumble into a place where you'll be welcomed and given something to drink and have a conversation with somebody.
I was struggling to figure out what you were saying, but Ano Syros, I found it on the map.
Oh yeah, sorry.
It's like
Ano,
up in the northern part of the main city, but it's like a neighborhood, it seems like.
It's a village, yeah. So sorry, Ano meaning upper. Ano Syros is Syros. Two separate. Yep. So it's the highest point on Syros, and from that cathedral, you can actually see 6 different neighboring islands on a clear day, which is super
amazing.
Cool. So definitely, and again, I would say Syros probably isn't for people with mobility issues because there are a lot of hills and walking. So just something to think about. I think it's best enjoyed by foot. Mm-hmm. Syros and Santorini are ones you got to look out for if, walking and stairs and hills and that sort of thing.
Yeah. If you're in that stage where business is picking up and you're starting to feel stretched too thin, The last thing you want to do is go digging for answers about whether a hotel offers connecting rooms or insights about a totally new to you destination. That's why I built The Hive. It's your expertise vault, a platform that turns scattered notes and siloed knowledge into an organized library of hotel details, destination insights, and advisor experiences, curated so you can focus on growing your business and serving your clients. Instant access to expertise means you sound confident, you save hours, and you scale smarter. If you're in that stage where things are picking up but you feel stretched too thin, The Hive was built for you. Learn more at thehive.travel. Any food items that are very particular, or is it just everything that we know and love with olive oil and feta cheese and fresh vegetables, and it's just the amazing Greek food we find on most islands?
I feel like every destination has some food specialty or drink specialty. Syros specifically is big on cheese production. They're
Cool.
known for like a caper salad. There's a dish with pork with cabbage, and then the halva pies and the lukumi. The lukumi are like the sweet, I don't know, they're kind of like gummy bear, yeah, kind of like gummy bear consistency, but they're little. They're like the Turkish little treats with
Yeah.
wrapped in sugar. So yeah, that's like a
Amazing.
big thing. Anywhere you go, you'll be offered something like that.
Love this. Okay, so I think we kind of made it through all of the points, but I just realized that if we go back, you kind of mentioned logistically there are quite a few islands that are within like 30 minutes or less than an hour. If we were just like, okay, Syros, like if I already have clients in mind, to be honest, after talking with you, they're going to Croatia on this next trip, but I'm like, I think their next trip is Greece with Syros because they would love it. If we led the conversation and clients were just saying, we'll go anywhere, tell us where to go, instead of them coming to us saying, well, Santorini or Mykonos has to be in here somewhere, because not everyone does that, to be honest.
Right.
If you said, okay, for this client, Syros is perfect, and we've got 10, like a good solid 10 to 12 days, what logistically just is really, really smooth and works really well? And then also like considering like pacing and high low and ending in a nice, luxury hotel that might, like, what would you put together for an itinerary that included Syros?
For like a first timer, I would say. And how many days are you thinking?
I don't know, like 10 or 12, like, let's be generous.
Great. Right. Yeah. So I think Athens is having its moment, and it's definitely worth visiting for two or 3 nights. I think we're
I agree.
seeing a more expanded average stay, and that's exciting because it's a gritty city, and you either love it or you don't. But I think it's worth.
People come
Yeah.
and they're like, we don't need Athens, we can fly right through. And I'm like, nope.
Yes.
You
Don't do
you
that.
get to that hotel and it will be
Yeah.
for 2 nights and you will love it.
Yes. Well, and that's where we get to do, I mean, we do really cool, we have a Michelin star chef where we do this like in a secret place. We do like this 12-course meal inspired by mythology. I mean, you can do everything from a very simple food walking tour or, visiting the Acropolis to really high end, it's the city. That's kind of your chance to shine. So there's so many cool things you can do in Athens. So I would say give it at least 2 or 3 nights in Athens. And then you could, depending on the days and if it aligns, if they can fly to Syro, that's the way to go.
Yep.
Otherwise, it's not a terrible ferry, depending on if you take a fast boat or a slow boat.
It's like
and then
2.5 hours or so by
Right,
ferry.
yeah.
So the
Yeah.
flights are not every day, but fly
Not
if you
every
can.
day.
And then if the days don't land properly, then like 2.5
Right.
hours on a fast ferry.
Correct. Yes. And then I would say a good itinerary would be a couple days in Syro, and then again about a 40-minute ferry ride to the island of Tinos, which is a bit more traditional, that kind of whitewashed in blue, but they have like 50 villages. Tinos is one of my favorite islands. There's a beautiful hotel there with a private beach, and then there's also some more kind of affordable boutique stays. So Tinos has a little bit of everything. And then I would do just again 30, 35 minutes from there and in Mykonos on a high.
So
And that
30
would be
to
like an
35
easy.
minutes is from Tinos, or would it be the similar from Syros if they
It's the
just did
same.
Syros to Mykonos? Okay.
So Syro to Mykonos is about, it depends on the route, if they're stopping in Tinos or not,
Yeah.
if there's a, and
Yeah.
again, we know the ferries it's one of the pain
So fun.
points and so much fun. We call it the great equalizer just because it makes everybody,
It's
the same.
humbling.
It's humbling. There's no VIP. There's no fancy. I mean, we do our best. We'll have an escort. We'll do what we can. But at that point, it's, as much as you can. So, yeah. So it's about Syro to Tinos, about 40 minutes and then 40 minutes. And then about the same from Tinos to Mykonos. So if somebody's like not loving being on the water, not loving being in transit, it's, I like to connect islands that are close in proximity just to maximize their stay and their experience.
Yeah, I'm looking at a map
Mhm.
now, and I've looked at a map of these islands so many times, but now I'm kind of with new eyes looking here that, like, yeah, Syros, Tinos, and Mykonos they're all right there. And
Yeah.
those are three very different islands.
Yes, which is also why I like it, because they offer a bit, like, people feel like they got a taste of different things, and it's still this island hopping experience, but they're getting to see something different in each and a little bit of a different experience.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
love that so much. Okay. Christine, thank you so much. I'm really thrilled to I think that I don't want to say that I get bored planning, the typical islands all the time, because I don't. I honestly, I talk people into Santorini just about every trip because it's my personal favorite. I
Yeah.
just really love Santorini. But I also am just like, I feel reinvigorated to just be a little bit more knowledgeable about other islands that I could talk about with clients and kind of match them with different itineraries and more unique ideas than the Athens, Paro, Santorini, Athens, Paro, Santorini. Like there are more things to do, and those
Yeah.
islands are getting, like Paros is getting, it's way busier than it was when I was there. And I was there 3 years ago. Like it wasn't that long ago, and it's still like there's tons of new hotels. Like the islands are changing a lot from year to year.
Yeah.
So I'm thrilled to now understand some of these other islands and how they all connect and who they're great for. So thank you so much for sharing more about Syros with us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. And to your point about Bado too, I feel like that's an island that, since it was voted the number one island in Europe, the number one island in the world this year. I mean,
Who is responsible for this? Get out
I
of
mean,
here.
and to be honest, it's not just about the crowds. There's actual infrastructure issues on Santorini and Pado when, the hotels, the garbage piles up, or there are electrical issues. I mean, I feel like it's always important that if you're planning on going somewhere, knowing the reality of going to a busy island looks like. And it's not just that there will be a lot of people in your pictures. There's other things. So that's why going to an island that's less traveled, you're not going to have the cruise crowds. There's a lot of added benefits, and it just kind of gets you back to a more authentic thing. But again, every place has its seasonality, and when talking to local experts, we can help guide you as to when, where, how to stay, all that to make it enjoyable.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I look forward
Thank
to
you.
having you back on again in the future to talk about a different area of Greece.
Excited. Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Hive Mind podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. And if you know a friend or colleague who would enjoy this, please share it with them. If you would like insights from this episode landing in your inbox each week, join our newsletter at thehive.travel/podcast. And remember, if you'd like to contribute to a future episode, whether it's sharing your destination expertise or your experience touring hotels, just head to thehive.travel/podcast to learn more and express your interest. We'd love to have you join the conversation. Until next time.